Our shift of mindset on growth became less of like, let's go build more business. It was, let's go build more impact.
My name is Maynard Okereke, and I am the creator of Hip Hop Science, and I am also the co-founder of Jada Brands.
I'm Dan Davidson, founder of Rosebud Coffee and executive director of Coffee with a Cause.
How's it going today, man?
Good, doing well.
I'm excited to learn everything about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I have a business called Rosebud Coffee, and my social mission is I work with youth that are transitioning out of the foster system or homelessness, and then I bring them in to train them in coffee and help them find coffee jobs.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then along the way, I also have a nonprofit, and that nonprofit's called Coffee with a Cause. You know, I actually came out here to start a church, but the first people that I encountered actually were youth that were sleeping in the church parking lot that I came to start.
Yeah.
Like any entrepreneur, you work with what you get.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm sitting here in this old church building with this old coffee cart. So what I ended up doing was finding some baristas in our neighborhood that could help us restart this coffee cart, get it up and running. And I began to pair the youth with these baristas restarting the coffee cart, and that's kind of what kicked off our training program. And then it was like eventually time to say, hey, let's do an actual coffee shop.
For me, I work with youth a lot. My platform, Hip Hop Science, is all about sparking curiosity, right? And encouraging more minority and youth involvement into the STEM fields. I have a background in STEM. I studied civil and environmental engineering at University of Washington in Seattle, and worked in the industry for a number of years. And so I've always noticed a lack of minority involvement in STEM, and I always kind of felt pushed away from it. You know, I originally wanted to study wildlife biology. That was my goal. I loved nature, I loved exploring outdoors, but I didn't really have any examples of what that could look like. And so I got just kind of talked out of it, you know, that curiosity, the natural curiosity that I had for it was just kind of sucked out of me. Civil environmental engineering was kind of my compromise of like, okay, I could still be in this kind of environmental ballpark, but I'm still into technology, still into all these other areas, you know? Along with doing engineering and being kind of just a science nerd, I was always into music and entertainment, right? The arts was always something that I did, but I did it on the side. And then the hip hop science really just came in about a full combination of like, okay, I'm going to now put all my passions together so now I can be able to serve underrepresented communities, right? I'm gonna create this like fun social content that's gonna be engaging, right? And through my representation, I can be able to show a new face of science.
But I also saw you have a food business too.
Yeah, food business just kind of started out as, you know, my friend came up to me with an idea, and for me, I was like, this sounds fun, this sounds different. But I was like, yeah, let's run with it, you know? And we went from the ground level, making the product ourselves, eventually got on Shark Tank.
Did the sharks bite? What happened?
Yeah, we did a deal with Barbara on the show, which was amazing.
Awesome.
And so been scaling and growing the business ever since, you know?
Yeah.
And so people always ask like, now how do you balance this and how do you leverage them together? And it's different because they're both kind of in different, you know, fields. But for me, I talk a lot about the entrepreneurship work that I do in my food business when I talk to students, when I do outreach, right? Because one of the things about empowering students is showcasing like, you don't have to be one thing. Right? I try to showcase like you can be multi-talented into all sorts of different things, right? That right there helps spark that curiosity.
There's a pattern here that we both fell into, or like that sense of like you see a need, right? You see this problem, and then you start working with the larger like community to meet that need using the resource you have. I then started partnering with local nonprofits. So, cause like when I realized like the youth homelessness way beyond my capacity, these other nonprofits are providing like case management and housing and like help for education.
Well, how do you set up those partnerships? How do you join forces?
It's just going to the nonprofit and saying like, I'm building this out. I think this would be a great partnership. And they said, yeah, absolutely. And then
because you have like-minded goals.
Exactly, right? Yeah, because in fact, we're helping them achieve their goals, right? They have certain expectations they're trying to meet. And so us coming alongside to provide the job training and employment is furthering them as well as furthering us.
So if you're partnering with all these nonprofits that aren't necessarily known for bringing in money, and then you're now doing this positive work for the community, how do you translate that into, you know, the scalability of the business and the work that you do?
I made a decision early on to go and start a business. not start a nonprofit? So that the work with the youth could stay a labor of love, right? It could just evolve naturally. But then you get to a place like we are now, which is to say, well, we want to grow.
Yeah.
And so after COVID began, we set up this nonprofit. And that's the opportunity we saw as best fit for the growth that we want to see happen, right? So instead of us wanting to go out and start more Rosebud Coffees, on the corner, we've got plenty of coffee shops out there. It's to take the model of training, the work that we do with the youth, into small businesses. And that's hopefully now going to kickstart the nonprofit growth through grants.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so now we can be able to hopefully connect with more youth, place them into new locations in our area, and all of that administrative costs, right, the personnel costs, that be funded by the grants. So our sense of shift of mindset on growth became less of let's go build more business. It was let's go build more impact.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to assume that small business owner doesn't want it to have impact.
Yeah.
Because the aha was they do.
And I think that's an area too that's really interesting from any social entrepreneurial business is now developing programs that can now transcend beyond your own business, right? So that's one area that even within the work that I do is trying to think, okay, what are ways that I can turn this into a program that can live beyond me? So that could be things like making products, like STEM products, science kits, science experiment tools, right? That can be delivered to K through 12 classrooms, right? That have this hip hop science theme.
Have you thought then on your end about adding also a nonprofit that would let you be able to take, the ideas you're incubating and get them out there?
That's exactly an area that I'm exploring right now, which is why it's great to hear how you transition into doing that, because that's an area I've been identifying and it's been on my radar. I just haven't really figured out a plan of how to be able to do it.
If you help me with social media, I'll help you with nonprofit work.
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Now we're in this social space where we are doing all this advocacy work.
Yeah.
We're doing all these things that it's very impactful, but then you have this whole business structure that you have to maintain around it, right? And it's how do you continuously cycle things through where this work can continue to prosper?
Yeah, I don't know how it's been on your experience, but I think too, what comes to mind is the power of social capital, because we are a part of this much larger community. And so there's been at times for sure where I feel we just needed to tap our friends, our family, our supporters and say, hey, can you help us do this? So I remember raising my first, round of funds for getting the coffee shop open and just telling the community hey, we're ready to make this transition. Can you support us? Can you help us raise the funds to do it? And you're always kind of surprised that there will be this resounding yes, we'll help you. Wow, awesome.
Yeah, well, since you bring that up, right, because you talked about earlier, your social media, that's an area that you struggle around, right? And you can gain social capital through social media.
Absolutely.
What have you been trying to do now to better yourself within that space?
That's hard to answer.
Right. Because I guess coming from my perspective, because my mind started as this, building that social capital, right?
Yeah.
Doing my work on social media, right? And understanding how to leverage social media to be able to open the doors for new opportunities. So you're able to gain social capital by having a social media presence, right? And showcase
100% agree.
that.
Yeah, that's the area of opportunity. The story we have and the experience we have locally has been awesome and super connected, super supported. We're at a place, I think, with our new nonprofit and the work we've done to go to another level. We really can't get and bridge to that next level without social media. And when you're looking at the different tools out there, as you mentioned, for social media, I mean, what technologies or platforms are you utilizing the most?
You have to look at social media as a tool, right? And that's what it is. It's just another tool within the framework of your business that you have to be able to utilize. You use this tool now to be able to build your social capital and showcase what you're doing.
Which platform or technology should I pick up and start utilizing as a tool?
The first thing I always built out was my website, right?
Yeah, okay.
And one, showcasing what my business is about, right? And why people need to be a partner with this, but then also making it a transactional tool, a way to be able to easily get bookings, for people to be able to now connect with you. That's where even things that we do with utilizing Square, right, come into play, right? Because you're able to have all these unique integrations with your platforms, right? So you're able to make transactions easier. And so once you now do that, you're able to now expand that into whatever social platforms that you want to focus on and dial in on, right? And then continue to bring that story to the table. And then that helps build that social presence. So now when you're reaching out to other nonprofit organizations, they're able to see the work that you're doing and why it's important, you know?
It's hard being a social entrepreneur, right? It's hard holding like the double bottom line. But I think our world, I think our nation needs it. Like, I think we need new models that represent like how we can do economics, how we can do business different.
I also firmly believe that, right? Like think about a world where every business had a social responsibility in line with it, right? You think about how many transformative things we can do, right? On every level, with all these problems that we have that can be solved if everybody kind of came with that social purpose, right?
I love that, because all of us as entrepreneurs have things we're very passionate about. And it's just that, like, wake up, like, don't turn that off when you go to work, right? Don't turn off the social concern you have when you're building your business, you know? Because of course you got to work on the sustainability and the profitability and all of that, but like also say yes to what your heart is open to. I think my first takeaway is just being encouraged by another social entrepreneur, knowing that there's others out there that are finding ways for their business, their passion to have a social impact. That's super just encouraging for me.
I would say the biggest takeaway was really at the core the value and the importance of social entrepreneurship work. And then also just seeing how he was able to leverage his work into the nonprofit sector, and all of that was really inspiring.